Enough is enough. Well, it seems to be anyway for the Cypriot Finance Minister. Michalis Sarris has handed in his notice after securing the €10 billion bailout that will see savers in two major banks pay the bill. The finger pointing's far from over, though, as the island tries to establish who's to blame for the country's economic meltdown. Reports claim millions of euros have been pulled out of the country in recent weeks, suggesting some were tipped off about the approaching crisis. Over 130 people and firms are under scrutiny for suspicious financial transactions, among them a firm co-owned by the president's son-in-law. Well, for more on this subject, let's talk now live to Clem Chambers. He's a financial journalist, also runs a stock market analysis website. Hi there, Clem. Who do you think's responsible for the meltdown then, first of all?
Well, I mean, I think if you look at all the countries in Europe, and that, for that matter, America and even Japan, they've all been playing the same game, especially in Europe and America, which is you get a property boom, the government taxes the property boom, they then spend the money, they then get a huge deficit, the credit boom collapses, the property boom collapses, they go bust. So it's the same pattern all over Europe and America. So you can say that it's just generally speaking the political machine that has been driving credit bubbles and property bubbles so that they can tax the future, and that's come unstuck all over the world, and Cyprus is just one of a number of a long line of that. So you can say that pretty much nobody particular to Cyprus is responsible, although you could say that it's the European system that is responsible.
Huge knock for the Cyprus banking system, though, isn't it? And Cyprus's banking services and reputation. It kind of begs the question, who's going to want to go there again in the near future?
Well, nobody's going to go there again, not for banking. I mean, I think that part of their business is dead. It's the same story as Iceland. Iceland had the same thing. They wanted to be a financial services strong point, kind of a banking haven almost. And they were crushed. They didn't really have the experience to do it. Cyprus has done the same thing. Their banking hub idea is dead. No one's going to put their money now there, not for a generation. So they're going to have to forget that 20 to 30% of GDP that country relies on. That's gone.
Wow. What about the bigger knock-on effect to the wider EU, do you think, from this?
Well, I mean, the real trouble with, it's been a total farce, is that anybody that comes under this sort of pressure going forward, the first thing that's going to happen is the retail savers are going to run. And they're going to be bank runs now much more likely than they've ever been before, because the precedent has been set. And, the guys that set it out said that it is a template. And then, of course, they denied it's not a template. I didn't really mean that. It's kind of like a template. But, the precedent has been set. And unless you've been hiding under a rock, if you're in a country like Slovenia, for example, or any other one of those countries that might get into a crisis, might repeat a crisis, it could be Ireland again, it could be Portugal, it could be Italy, it could be Spain. If a new crisis kicks off in any of those countries, they're going to see what happened in Cyprus and they're going to pull their money. And that,
if you could put a percentage on it,
so,
Clem,
the likelihood.
If you could put a percentage on it, how likely is it you think this is going to happen again soon, somewhere in the EU?
100%. Definitely 100%, because the system is not addressing the underlying problem of all this, which is deficits, state deficits, trade deficits. Europe and America are bleeding to death, and they're not doing anything about it. They're not cutting back. They're not cutting back their deficits. They're not cutting back their trade deficits. So they must go bust. So unless they turn that around, and there's no sign they're going to, then the dominoes must fall. And at some point, it's going to be France, of course. France is kept out of the sights of this, but at some point in the next 2 or 3 years, France is going to come under this death ray, and of course all hell is going to break loose.
Of course, pro-bailout proponents, they're going to say these financial measures were essential for keeping Cyprus from bankruptcy and to stay in the Eurozone when the country's recovered, maybe 10, 20 years hence, as you were saying. Won't history say it was all worth the hardship in the long term? I guess you're going to say not.
Well, I mean, it's very hard to look out at the long term without seeing the fact that the core problem of the whole euro crisis, and in due course the dollar crisis, are huge state deficits, sovereign deficits that are growing out of control, and balance of payment deficits, which are, again, not being addressed. Even Germany, if you look at Germany's sovereign debt to GDP, it's at a level that used to make South American countries bankrupt only 4 or 5 years ago. So even Germany, which is held up as a paragon, is on a brink, which is not necessarily going to get much better. But, you know, Germany, Holland, the northern countries are in a better shape than the south. And until they really get their arms around how they're going to get these sovereign deficits under control, this problem is going to roll and roll and roll. One day it'll be Cyprus, another day it will be Italy, another day it will be France. Until they actually get their finances in order, it can only slowly but surely get worse.
Clem, final 20 seconds thought for those poor Cypriots on that lovely island. The Cypriot finance minister says it's not clear when the capital controls are going to be lifted. How long do you predict?
Well, these things take a long time normally. They say it's going to be next week, next month. But if you look at Iceland, they're still there. So I wouldn't really imagine that all those capital controls are going to go for maybe even years until they're completely gone.
Very good to have you on the programme tonight. Clem Chambers, financial journalist, live from Los Angeles. Thank you.